Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel Reviewed, where we talk about all things television and film from today and yesteryear. So I wanted to come on here and give my thoughts on The Shy Season 8, Episode 2. Listen, y'all got my girl Tip out here in these streets looking crazy. Like, I do not appreciate it at all. And when it comes to the writers at this point,
I really don't like them. No, I don't.
so the episode picks up with the situation between Jake and Reg. And Reg, he gets up out the pool and he basically lets Jake know, well, I got one better for you. You standing up here like you about to pop me. How about I pop myself? So he tells Jake that he's gonna play Russian roulette and he gonna keep pulling the trigger until whatever happens, happens. And he was like, is that a deal? And so Jake was like, nah, no deal. You know, and in this moment, I was just like, I just wish Jake would just stand on it for once when it comes to Reg, because it just seems like Reg has this hold over him. Like, we already know Reg is a bully when it comes to Jake, because he know he gonna get his way. You know what I'm saying? Is whatever Reg want, Reg gonna get when it comes to Jake. And I just wish Jake would I just wish he wouldn't fold so easily when it came to Reg. And Reg was like, when Jake was like, no, no deal, nah, I'm not with that. Reg was like, I knew you still love me or whatever. So of course, Reg is gonna stay at the house and he's just gonna do what he wants to do. Keisha and Emmett, they are having a conversation with a woman who I assume is a social worker. And she lets them know that Devontae is going to have to be monitored for, I think she said around like 90 days. And that during those 90 days, if he gets out of pocket or if he does anything to violate whatever terms, he is going to have to do a year in juvie. And, Emmett says something to him, and Devontae kind of speaks to Emmett, out the side of his neck. And Emmett was like, you need to watch your tone, basically like, watch what you say when you're talking to me. And so the woman asked them, she was like, well, where did he get the firearm? And, Emmett was like, it's mine. I guess I forgot to lock it up. And Keisha was like, see, this is why I don't want to have any weapons in our home. And so Emmett was like, what are you trying to blame me? And Keisha, she's like, it's not like that. I think they're both just frustrated. But there was a moment when all of this was going on when they zoomed in on Devontae, and it was like he was like he couldn't hear them. It was like static, like it almost like he wasn't, like everything they were saying was kind of muffled around him. And I'm wondering if this is him blocking it out, or if later on down the line we're gonna find out that he has some type of learning disability or something. I don't know. But either way, he just appears like he just don't care. Devontae does. So I'm curious how this whole situation and this whole 90-day thing is going to work out. So Nuck and Bakari are at the warehouse, and Nuck, he's asking Bakari, how did the book signing go? And Bakari's still a little salty because he didn't do well. His book signing was not successful. He didn't sell many books. He lets Nuck know that. And they end up getting into a conversation about pillow talking. Nuck is basically pressing Bakari, like, have you been talking to your girl about stuff that's going on? And Bakari was like, nah, I wouldn't do that to you. And he was like, Bakari asked Nuck, does Tiff know about Rob? And of course, Nuck is like, nah, why she don't need to know that. Like, she gonna know what I want her to know. That's pretty much it. And, my thing is, when Nuck says to Bakari, you better not open your mouth or you gonna catch one, Bakari was like, you ain't gonna do nothing to me. And I'm thinking to myself, what makes you think you're the exception? You already know what type of time Nuck is on. If he tell you you gonna catch a fade if you open your mouth, please believe that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay?
Not pillow talking, is you?
Are you?
Hell no. Tiff only know what she need to know.
She don't know about Rob.
And it need to stay like that.
I ain't tell nobody.
You better not be lying to me.
Why would I lie?
Because you want me to kill you. That's why.
You wouldn't kill me.
That's what you think. Shut your fucking mouth.
So Vic and Shad, they're talking, and Vic tells Shad, my attorney wanted me to put everything on you. He wanted me to blame you for everything. And, Shaw was like, "What? Are you serious?" And he was like, "Yeah." He said, "So that's why I fired him." So we find out that attorney, I think her name is Patience, she is representing the both of them. And so they continue to talk, and we already know that Shaw kind of got his eye on the lady, right? He loved a woman with a career. Okay. So he's talking and Vic is listening to him and Vic was like, don't you even think about doing that. And Shaw was like, what? He said, I can appreciate a beautiful woman, whatever. And Vic was like, nah, we need to focus on making sure that we're going to get out of here. We ain't got time for you to be trying to fool la la with nobody. Okay. Emmett and Tiff, they go and meet up with Tiff's mom. Tiff's mom wants custody of their son. She basically lets them know that y'all got too much going on. Y'all lives is too unorganized and too hectic. I want my grandson to come live with me so he can be in a stable environment. And of course, Emmett and Tiff, they are kind of resistant because they're like, nah, we'll figure it out. And come to find out, Tiff's son lived with Emmett and Keisha for a year. And, he tells her mom, Emmett, he was like, well, she was in mourning, trying to get over Rob or whatever. And the lady was like, well, you ain't no better, Emmett. Your son was found at school with a weapon. And Emmett was like, we are doing the best we can. We got a house full of kids, but we are still trying to make sure that we are keeping an eye on them and, trying to do right by our kids. But Tiff's mom is not hearing it.
You got left by this one. The last one was taken from you, and now you with the one who got a baby with his new wife.
And I'm married.
I won't let my grandson get left behind because of your negligence.
So what do you want, Ma? You want to adopt him?
I don't want the paperwork. I just want my grandson.
And what if we say no?
I don't want to take y'all to court. But I will if I have to.
Patience finally links up with Nora. Okay. And Nora was like, where is so-and-so? I thought she wanted to buy the candles. And she was like, she couldn't make it. And so Nora's looking at this lady like, who are you? And so she lets her know, I'm the attorney for Rashad. I am trying to, make sure that an innocent man does not go to jail. And Nora, she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I ain't got nothing to do with that. And she says to her, she was like, your father went to prison for a crime he didn't commit. She said, do you want to do that to another man? And so Nora was like, so what happens if I change my story? And, the attorney, she was like, I will do whatever I can to make sure that you're protected. And, Nora does let her know, she lets the attorney know that she saw an opportunity and she took it, meaning somebody paid her money, which is what I assumed from the jump when they said that she just disappeared. So Nora, she says, well, I was with Shad the whole night. Like we was together the whole night. And she also tells the attorney to, tell Shad that she's sorry that she didn't speak up before, And, the attorney, she was like, so who is the person that paid you the money to be quiet? And she tells her it was Rosalind, who was Duda's wife. Riley and Keisha have this moment. They're having a conversation. And, Riley, she tells Keisha that Devontae is one of those kids who may just need a little bit more attention. And she asks Keisha, do you think you could homeschool him since you have experience in educating kids? And, Keisha is a little hesitant at first, but ultimately she does decide that she is going to homeschool Devontae. And oddly enough, Devontae seems very happy that he is going to be homeschooled. Once him and Emmett bring that to his attention, he seems kind of excited about it. They explain to him, you'll still get to see your friends, but, you're just going to be receiving your education here at home. And so I'm wondering if the way that he was acting is because he wanted attention, because we don't know what type of home life he had with his mom, you know what I'm saying, before they brought him to Emmett's house. But he just seemed like he was a little excited about the fact that he would be homeschooled by Keisha. So the couples meet up to have a conversation about the situation with Tiff and Emmett's son. And, Keisha, she says, to Tiff, well, he did stay with us and for some time. And Tiff was like, that's because you offered. And Keisha was like, yeah, but it was only supposed to be temporary. Again, we found out that it had actually been a year that their son had been living with them. But anyway, I, it did not click for me until Tiff's mom mentioned it. But I was like, oh my gosh, Keisha and Tiff have been swapping out the same men. Like, girl, this is crazy. Like, what in the Real Housewives of Atlanta is going on here? Okay. Like, y'all literally have been sharing the same dudes. And it's crazy to me. But anyway, Nuck, he tells Tiff, well, he could come stay with us. And Tiff was like, my mom don't like you. And he was like, what did I do to your mom? And she was like, she don't like your face tattoos. And Keisha was like, yeah, my mom didn't like it either, like them either, or whatever. So, Emmett was like, maybe we should just let him go stay. And Tiff was like, oh, so you giving up just like that? But ultimately, they both decide that it is in the best interest of their son for him to go and live with Tiff's mom. I'm wondering how that is going to play out, or if they will visit that later on in the season, how that is going to affect him. Because oftentimes when children have siblings, right, and you send one sibling to live with a grandmother or whomever, whatever relative, while the other siblings are being raised by the parent, sometimes that kid, make a child feel a certain way. So I'm wondering if that is going to be addressed sometime this season, or if perhaps we're going to see all of them have a conversation with their son to let them know why they feel like it is in his best interest for him to go and stay with his grandmother. Victor gets a visit from his ex-girlfriend. I think her name is Fatima. We're just going to roll with Fatima, right? And, she goes to see him, and he does let her know that he and Shad did not do anything to Alicia. They moved the body, and, she's like, why did you do that? He was like, I don't know, whatever. And they get into a conversation about what she's been up to. And, he asked her, well, what have you been doing for money? And she was like, well, you really want to know? And he was like, nah, I guess not. I really don't want to know. So they decide that maybe when Victor gets out, that they'll link up and I guess basically reconnect. So after he gets a visit from her at the prison, honey, Vic gets into this fight. I guess these men thought they was about to punk him, but baby, when I tell you he pound on that Negroidian, he pound down. Okay, he beat that man's behind, but now I'm wondering if that fight is going to hinder him from being able to get out, even though he is innocent. I'm just wondering if that's going to go against him and cause an issue of him potentially getting out of jail. Jake ends up throwing this party at some club, and the party is lit. It's like a lot of people is blowed out or whatever. And of course, Reggie and his crew pull up trying to get in the party. Reggie is outside carrying on. So Bakari comes into the club and lets Jake know, hey, your brother outside. He got a couple of people with him. He trying to get into the party. And of course, Jake, he ends up folding again. He goes outside, lets the bouncer know that it's okay to let Reggie into the club. And of course, Reggie out there giving the bouncer lip because the bouncer was not about to let him up in that party. And I was like, oh, I will be so glad when Vic comes on the scene again, because I'm telling you, I do not like how Jake always allows Reggie to just run amok and do what he want to do. And again, Reggie is a bully, but it's just like, Jake, you already know how your brother is. Like, oh, I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? But he lets him into the club. Not too much ends up, well, I think they end up getting into a bit of a scuffle. And of course, I'm like, and this is why you cannot roll with Reggie. You just cannot. He's nothing but chaos. That's all he is, a bunch of chaos. Emmett and his dad are having a conversation. They're talking about the whole situation with, him and Tiff's son going to stay with Tiff's mom. He also brings up the whole boiler situation with the hot water. I want to say that it's fixed, but Darnell is still hesitant about moving back home because apparently they no longer need to stay with Emmett and Keisha. And, they get into a conversation about being fathers and, how each of them are, with fatherhood. And I think Emmett is wondering, like I said earlier, how this is going to affect the relationship that he has with his son. Because again, the fact that you still have your other kids at home, but you got another son living somewhere else. So, Emmett just had a couple of questions for his dad. And of course, Darnell is Darnell. Okay.
I went to see Victor.
What? Girl,
I know.
how was that?
He looked like he's going through it.
Jail will do that to you.
Yeah, but he didn't do it.
How do you know?
Because I know him.
Do you still have feelings for him?
I don't know.
I heard he has his eye on someone new.
Who?
Some little light-skinned girl that sell weed.
Tiff?
I don't know her name.
That's Emmett's ex-wife.
Aren't Emmett and Victor cool?
That's what I thought.
Oh, well, that's messy.
Tiff's mom comes to pick up her grandson, and she and Tiff have somewhat of a heart-to-heart. Tiff basically lets her mom know that she just wanted somebody to love her. She felt like her mom was not there for her. Her mom was in the streets, and, if we're being honest, I guess that is a part of Tiff's learned behavior. Tiff is doing what she's doing what she want to do, but at the same time, Tiff is in a certain lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? And, she, lets her mom know that Emmett paid attention to her, and that's why they started hooking up. She said, I thought that having a baby by him would make him love me forever. And her mom was like, I could have told you that wasn't going to work. And Tiffany was like, I just wanted someone to love me. And her mom was like, I loved you. You're my daughter. And Tiff said that, she was grateful for her mom for loving her son the way that she does. And, her mom was like, you will always need your mom. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what's going on, you're going to always need me, and I want to be there for you as well. So it seems like these two are, mended the fence when it comes to Tiffany's feelings about her son going to live with her mom. And I guess ultimately, they all feel like they're doing what's best for him. Honey, Attorney Patience is not playing the radio, okay? She goes to the hospital and she ends up talking to a nurse that she knows. And the nurse is like, girl, I'm going to see what I can do for you, but I can't guarantee nothing. But, when they're having a conversation, the nurse, she was like, you looked out for me and, you were there for me when I needed you a few times. So I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to look out for you. So we see that Miss Patience ends up getting the footage from, that night at the hospital. And so for me, I was just like, how can they not vouch for Vic being there and delivering Tiff's baby? But I guess it didn't click for me that they weren't looking for the footage of him, delivering the baby, because they had several people who witnessed, when the elevator got unstuck, going in there and helping them out. They were trying to make sure that he was in place at the hospital at the time that he said he was, because remember when Shad called Vic that morning, and Vic was, he woke up, he was in that chair at the hospital, and he answered the phone call because remember, Tiff kept trying to call Alicia and she couldn't get her on the phone. And they both had woke up and she was like, Alicia hadn't called back yet, whatever, because Alicia didn't know that the baby had been born. And, no, Alicia did know, but she never made it to hospital. But anyway, so it didn't click that is what she was needing. That's what Patience needed. She needed to make sure that the time that Vic said he left the hospital was accurate. And so, honey, she was combing through that surveillance footage. And when I tell you, ma'am was not missing a beat, she was not missing a beat. She sat there, she scanned through that footage. And of course, we get to see her notice Vic come off the elevator. So she indeed is doing her job. So Patience goes to see the judge. The judge, I can't think of her name. She was friends with Alicia. She is also Professor Wayne's wife. Okay, again, his name was not Professor Wayne, but whatever. So when she went to go see her, she was like, my clients are innocent. I need you to pull some strings. And, the judge was like, well, I'm not working on the case, but you're going to have to give me a little bit of what you know in order for me to try to do what I can do for you. Now, this is what I didn't get, because like I said last week when Bakari had his book signing, Why wasn't the professor with him, the one who encouraged him to write the book, the one who encouraged him to stay in school? Why was he not with him? But we get to see his wife right here having a conversation with Patience. So I'm just like, y'all, make it make sense.
Who killed Alicia?
I don't know.
I don't believe you.
I might have an idea.
Okay, well, if you want me to pull some strings for you, you're gonna have to do better than that.
I think Rosalind Perry had something to do with it.
And why would she want to kill Alicia?
Maybe she thought Alicia killed her husband.
She did want to take out all the killers.
Now, these two guys here, Nuck recruits them to come work for him. The dude on the left, you know, he used to hang with Reg, and he got beef with Reg. So he's all about it. You know, he's about to be the bodyguard. Now, the guy here on the right, the good-looking one, I don't know who he is, but he is so handsome. And he also, his girlfriend just so happens to be the baby mama of the guy, Rafi. And I said that I thought Rafi, whatever his name is an undercover cop. Maybe I am wrong, but somebody is about to infiltrate and set both of them up. And when I say both of them, I'm talking about Nuck and Reg, mainly Reg, but something is, I don't know, because this dude, he was very adamant about not joining back up with Nuck. He was like, I'm trying to be on the straight and narrow. You know, he was doing maintenance work, cleaning floors, whatever. But I guess when his girlfriend decided that she was going to go be with her baby daddy, who was a hustler, honey, he was like, okay, let me try to get my money up. And now he is going to be back, you know, in the whole ring with Nuck and the crew. But somebody is infiltrating them. I just feel it. It's going to be somebody working for the feds that may potentially get them caught up. I don't know. I just got a feeling that that's going to happen. But I could be wrong. So the whole situation with Nuck and Tiff is really grinding my gears. Okay. We get to see Tiff, you know, she's talking to Nuck. He's teaching her how to, you know, pull the trigger, which Tiff did not need his assistance, as we saw in this particular clip. And, you know, we saw how the show ended with them two getting in. And I'm just like, y'all got my girl straight up here wide open. But the irony for me would be, you know, Nuck is over here trying to teach Tiff how to put a bullet in somebody. And in actuality, she may be the one to put one in him. Because I just don't see how she's going to let this ride. When she find out that Nuck is the one who sent Rob to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord, and not only that you and your crew wrapped him up and laid him out as a UPS package on his mama doorstep. Like, are you kidding me? It's no way Tiff is going to let this ride. And I'm going to also tell you what I think as well, and I hope I'm wrong. But with Tiff letting her oldest son go stay with her mom, I'm like, are y'all about to have my girl locked up for popping Nuck? Like, is this what y'all about to do? Like, is Tiff's new baby going to be raised by maybe Vic and his girlfriend? I don't know. Like, y'all are not about to have my girl Tiff go out. That's what y'all not going to do. Now, everybody else who done murked somebody in the shot and got away with it, y'all need to let Tiff get away with it too. But she got to be the one to put Nuck down. You know, I see Nuck, he's trying to get his crew ready because they're trying to go against Reg. But Tiff is the one he going to need to look out for, as he should. And, you know, I like Nuck, but Nuck he's grimy. And I will be so glad when Tiff get that wool pulled from over her eyes, because right now y'all got her out here looking crazy and I don't like it at all. Okay. Well, that is all I have for you guys in this video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.